Hello everybody, Ranger Mark Mello with the Blackstone Valley National Historical Park, welcoming you to our 14th Ranger Chat. Yesterday was the 51st anniversary of the moon landing, the first moon landing. And many of you might not know, but the Blackstone Valley has a very interesting connection with the Apollo missions and that first moon landing. The Ashton Mill in Cumberland, Rhode Island was purchased by the Owens Corning Company in the 1940s. And in their time there in the mill, they produced a lot of cool things out of fiberglass, one of those being beta cloth. And beta cloth was extremely heat resistant, and it was used in the exterior of the space suits that were worn during the Apollo missions, and it made up the patches that were also worn on those spacesuits. So a really neat story there. And many of you might know that connection, but I have a feeling that fewer of you know about the story of the Betsy Ross of Fiberglass. Yes, you heard that right, the Betsy Ross of Fiberglass. Essie Sousa was an employee at the Owens Corning Fiberglass Company in Ashton, Rhode Island. And during her time there, she made a lot of really cool things out of fiberglass, including clothing and other really curtains and other neat things that she made out of fiberglass. But I think the coolest thing that she had the opportunity to make was to stitch together an American flag that was possibly going to be used during the moon landing. Now, Essie's flag was just one of a few that were put together by different companies and were thrown into a pile, and one was randomly pulled during the moon landing to be the American flag that flew on the moon, but they didn't want anybody to know for sure whose flag it was. But the flag that Essie sewed together was in that pile, and very well could be the flag that was flew on the moon during that original moon landing. And wouldn't that be an awesome thing if it were in fact her flag that flew on the moon? A few months ago, I had the great opportunity to interview Essie about her time working at the Owens Corning Fiberglass Company. In a small segment of that interview, we talked a little bit about her work in sewing that flag together. And so for this week's Ranger Chat, we are going to take a small segment from that interview in which we talked a little bit about her involvement sewing that flag. And so we are going to take an opportunity to hear Essie's own words about her work as the Betsy Ross of Fiberglass.
Well, they wanted to put, when they were going to send a man to the moon, they said they would take a flag. So they printed some red, white, and blue, and I had to sew these stars. And that was very difficult because to turn it around and fiberglass and so forth. And so after all was said and done, and we did this flag, and we're going to send it up to the moon, they said, well, we don't know which flag we're going to send up there because we don't want anybody to have
claim on it.
What do they call them? Rights.
Yep.
Oh, rights, yeah.
So they put all the flags in a pile, and they put them on wherever the astronauts were going.
Yeah.
And they grabbed one. To this day, they don't know which one they grabbed. And in fact, you can see it when they show you movies of it's a flag, but it has like a pole holding it because there was no wind up there. So we don't know, but nobody was going to have any bragging rights about the flag. So all that work was for nothing.
Well, you don't know.
It could be. Your flag could be on the moon.
Might be.
Yeah.
Do you know how many flags there were? How many companies gave?
No, but I know that there was a pile of them.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted the bragging rights of being the first flag on the moon, but So,
How would that feel if, like, we don't know, but if that was your flag that's on the moon right now, how does that make you feel?
proud that I had a part in it, but other than that, I wouldn't gain anything from it. It was just the fact that I did do it. A really awesome story, and a super, super awesome human being, and we thank you so much, Essie, for allowing us to use that segment from our interview for this week's Ranger Chat, because I'm sure everybody appreciated it. As always,
if you have any comments or ideas for upcoming weeks, please leave those down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you out there along the Blackstone really soon.